Hello, I'm Payal Raina, founder at FinTech B2B Marketing.com. Welcome to Learning with Market Leaders, a series or one-on-one conversation with our advisory board members who comprise the leading minds and possess a wealth of fantastic knowledge within financial services and FinTech marketing space. Today, I'm joined by April Rudin, CEO and founder at the Rudin Group. April is widely acknowledged as a top marketing strategist for the financial services and wealth management sectors. And April was recognized as a #1 wealth management influencer by Analytica in 2019. In addition to that, April gets regularly featured in some of the top global publications for her expert commentary, such as Forbes, Huffington Post, and the names goes on. So I'm super delighted to introduce April Rudin to you. So April, thanks for joining us today. It's an honor to have you.
Payal, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
April, I know you had a spectacular work journey, career journey, working for a number of years for global brands. And a few years ago, you actually started your own venture. So our community members would love to know about your journey from, being in a corporate life and now being an entrepreneur.
So thank you, Payal. So I always call myself the accidental sort of entrepreneur. I had really no intention of starting my own business, but I began working for Kelly Services, the temporary help company, and my background was in technology and marketing. And I ended up relocating from Detroit, Michigan, which is the Motor City in the US, to New York, which is the center of financial services. And I switched my career and started working in financial services and really saw an opportunity for brands. As I took a look around wealth management and high net worth, I saw these brands that looked so old and moldy. And I knew that 3 factors were happening. And keep in mind, this is 13 years ago. I heard about the wealth transfer, that all of these people were going to be inheriting wealth, and up to 98% of them might be changing financial advisors. I knew that I had 2 millennial kids of my own, and their passions and preferences and the way that they selected brands and the way they viewed brands was quite different. And then technology, it was beginning at the rise of FinTech, MarTech, and I saw the intersection of those 3 things really changing forever the way brands could and should position themselves. And so I went to a friend of mine who ran a very large trust company here in the US, and I told him my idea 13 years ago, and he told me, #1, April, you're too old to be an entrepreneur. He told me banks will never hire outside firms. High net worth people will never be on the internet, and social media is a fad. And so I thought to myself, if this guy is thinking this, that must be really pervasive thinking, and I must be onto something. So I just ended up downloading Yahoo tools, making my own website, and started publishing my own commentary and thought leadership on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Great, that sounds amazing and indeed so inspiring. I wonder where that person is now, the one who actually commented, because of course, it's an entirely different worlds now. So no, thank you so much for that.
He's retired, but the truth is that in wealth management and not wealth tech, but in wealth management, financial services, banking, I don't have to tell everyone that sort of thinking was totally pervasive and was, it's really very much of a herd mentality. And so all of that has changed, I'm happy to say, over the past, 12 or 13 years.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about disruption and pushing the boundaries. So I think it's a very inspiring story, and I'm sure folks who are listening and watching this interview, they probably would have the courage, because it's all about showcasing that courage and taking that leap of faith, April. So indeed, very, very inspiring.
Well, thank you. Someone once said to me, about thought leadership and about thoughts, that when I actually published something, I actually had thoughts, right? And this is before the term thought leadership. So I've always been proud of that, because I just try to have different out of the box type thinking. And I think that's what really inspires me. And I think that's what it should inspire other people really, is to not have the herding mentality and follow what everyone else is doing, but particularly in fintech marketing and, even brand marketing now, it's a time to push the boundaries and have original thinking.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that sounds wonderful. And it has been a challenging time, April, for all of us, in business in general, especially in pandemic, where things have gone like upside down. So it's not a news anymore. Everybody's kind of now used to and adapted themselves in this new normal. So looking ahead, given we are in the first quarter of Q1, April, and looking ahead 2021 and beyond, what do you see are the big themes and topics from a digital and from a social perspective, which marketers should have those trends on top of their minds?
Well, I think that, it's not for me to say what trends. I mean, really, people need to, again, I think, have original thinking.
Mhm.
And I think it's time for people to dig down and think about how they can, disrupt themselves. So, for example, all these webinars, too many webinars, that to me doesn't necessarily express original thinking. There's a lot of content out there, and more and more marketers are just simply putting content out there and using the webinar channel. So I think, to be really on trend is to be off trend, meaning that you should figure out where your buyers are, how to reach your buyers, and not use old tactics, right? I think everybody relies on the same set of tactics, particularly before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and then after the pandemic. So it's time to really get inspired and think outside the box.
Perfect. I love that. To be on the trend, be off the trend. I love that quote. I'm probably going to steal it for my next
You
interview.
got it.
Love it. Um, so then where does that opportunity and challenges lie? As you rightly pointed, April, people have been overdoing webinars, and, the engagement level is being dropping. So of course that kind of brings new set of challenges, and perhaps some new opportunities, as well as we are all being forced to work in social distance,
Yeah.
in this environment. So yeah.
Well, I think that marketers need to understand that content doesn't necessarily um, drive leads, but what drives leads is networking and human interaction and connecting with buyers along the customer journey. So, just thinking about that, there's no silver bullet. In other words, there's no number of webinars or white papers or ebooks or anything that's necessarily going to drive leads, but rethinking the type and kinds of events that they produce, including just simply networking events, right? Or for those tech vendors, it could be just demos, right? Holding a demo or having a roundtable conversation or something that's more engaging,
Mm.
right, with your peers and with potential buyers, rather than just webinars, which are one-way content pushed out with a panel of experts. I think that is something people have really gotten tired of and hasn't really produced the lead gen that everyone's looking for. So I think it's, again, backing up to thinking about, why am I doing this to begin with? And what is the goal? The goal isn't to produce a webinar a month. The goal is to drive leads for your salespeople. And so rethinking your goal and thinking about how to connect with prospects and buyers is really a better strategy.
Exactly, and especially when, as some of the marketers have been pre-recording the webinars, or businesses have been doing that, that's in fact taken out all the engagement out, the live action, on top of, as you just mentioned, April, they are kind of one way anyway. So it's no surprise why
One
engagement.
other point that I would bring up also, Pyle, is that I think people need to think about the quality versus the quantity
Yeah.
of who they're trying to reach. So people will measure results in number of people attended or a number of clicks and things like that, when the truth is, you could have an event, if it drives one lead that leads to a sale, then it was perhaps worthwhile. So it's not a game of quantity. And I think that's something the pandemic has also taught us. It's a game of quality.
Sure. No, I think that's an excellent point. Looking then from a fintech perspective, April, do you believe the tech sector has been a bit slow in adopting artificial intelligence, digital tech for self-serving and automation perspective? Of course, we're all being forced now, but what's your view on that?
Well, COVID-19 has been the biggest disruptor anyone could have mentioned, thought of, and never even thought of, right? Someone's nightmare. But the truth is that the pandemic has been a huge driver toward not really creating technology, but adoption. I think that's where everyone was stuck. It's like it's always been there, but people were not using it. So I think what the pandemic has done is drive adoption. It reminds me of, it's an American movie, but at the end of The Wizard of Oz, where Glenda the Good Witch says, Dorothy, it was always in your power. So, people, it was always in your power. You just didn't do it. And so only when forced, right, to change their habits and change the way they worked will people adopt things. So again, I think, marketers need to think about the difference between driving awareness and then driving adoption. Sometimes people will say, oh, our product is now on X, Y, and Z platform, right? That they've made that sale and it's on someone's platform, but it still may not be used. So I think that is the second consideration, and sometimes much more important than the first consideration, which is how do you get people to use a technology?
Indeed, yeah. And that's kind of then goes back to your content, your clear messaging. So no, I think those are excellent points you have made there, April. So April, look, as we're coming to the end of our conversation here, we usually ask all our guests about their top 3 tips or key piece of advice they would like to share with the fintech marketers. So what's going to be your pearls of wisdom for us today?
Well, the first one would be to be on trend, you have to be off trend. I'll reprise myself on that. The second one, I guess, is don't do more of the same, which is, tied to that also, try to be really original. And the third one would be look outside of our industry to other industries and gain ideas and insights from what other marketers are doing. Where financial services is, highly regulated and where technology is complex, I think there's still some golden ideas in other industries. For example, for wealth management, I always tell people to look at luxury brands and how they market because they create more of a client experience. So I guess those would be my top 3, but I'll give you one fourth one because I said it, which is the client experience. I think there has to be a huge shift in the way everyone's marketing away from product marketing, bells, features, whistles of the product, and to more a client-centric point of view. What pain points does this solve for, and how can people use this to enhance or improve their lives?
No, those are wonderful tips there. Thank you, April. It just kind of leads to one question, about, is there any geographical differences in terms of, UK or European marketers versus North American marketers? Do you see are there any kind of differences there, how they are adopting?
I think not so much, but in terms of Asia, there's a lot more digital, and digital came first in Asia. It was more a digital first economy, so more digital first marketing. But again, the pandemic has been a huge driver to all of that.
Excellent. Look, thank you so much, April, for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Excellent. And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching this video. We are going to be back again with another exciting guest. So in the meantime, don't forget to log on at www.fintechb2bmarketing.com to keep yourself on top of your fintech marketing game. Thank you.